Alright, so the penultimate episode of From Season 4 has officially dropped, and honestly, I don't even know where to begin because there is just so much packed into this one. This episode didn't hold back, not even a little bit. We got massive reveals, a huge shift in the power dynamic of the town, and we were left on one of the most brutal cliffhangers the show has ever given us. The penny finally dropped on Sophia's real identity. We saw Jade and Tabitha descend into the caves to retrieve those bones. Fatima began physically transforming into something deeply alarming, and perhaps most jaw-dropping of all, the man in yellow's deal with Claraara was finally brought out into the open. All of it was laid bare in the most suffocating, nerve-shredding way. I genuinely think this was one of the strongest episodes the season has produced, and given that the finale is right around the corner, the timing couldn't be better. So I want to walk you through everything, break down what the ending actually means, share some of my own theories on where this is all heading, and give you my honest thoughts on the episode as a whole. Fair warning right now, we are going deep into spoiler territory from this point forward. And hit that subscribe for more. Let's start with Sophia because she is absolutely the centerpiece of this episode, and everything that happens in it flows outward from her. What we've been slowly building toward across the season finally crystallized here. The man in yellow's fear tactic from the previous episode, the one designed to intimidate Tabitha and make her rethink going into the tunnels, didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly. Rather than making Tabitha pump the brakes, it pushed her forward with even more conviction. And that forced the man in yellow to completely change course and pivot his strategy on the fly. That pivot is what drives the chaos in this episode. Sophia finally let her mask slip in front of Claraara. The darkness in her eyes surfaced, and the illusion cracked. And that was the moment we got confirmation of something that's been hanging over this season like a storm cloud. Claraara made a deal with the man in yellow the very day she first arrived in the town. She was promised that when the time came, she would be given a task, and if she completed it, she would earn her freedom. That sounds almost reasonable on the surface, right? Almost like a fair trade. But of course, nothing in this town is fair, and nothing is what it appears to be. The tasks that Claraara is now being asked to carry out require her to betray and actively harm the very people who have shown her kindness while she's been trapped there. And that is where the real cruelty of this deal lives. It isn't just that she has to do something bad, it's that she has to do it to people she genuinely cares about. That's the man in yellow's signature move. He doesn't just manipulate people, he personalizes the suffering. After Sophia fused her blood with Claraara's, effectively placing the man in yellow's influence directly into her bloodstream, Claraara was then used as a vessel to administer that blood to Fatima through a home remedy drink. The goal was to speed up a process that had apparently already been in motion. And that process, based on everything we're seeing, is the complete physical and possibly spiritual transformation of Fatima into something monstrous. The veins that have been creeping across her body, her resting heart rate dropping to a deeply unnatural 19 beats per minute, the hair beginning to fall out later in the episode. None of this is illness. This is conversion. This is the town claiming her. There was a moment during the man in yellow's own transformation sequence where we briefly saw those same varicose veins on his body. That's not a coincidence. That's a visual confirmation. Fatima isn't sick. She's becoming something aligned with the monsters and the dark architecture of the town itself. We know from everything we've observed across the seasons that the monsters don't have a pulse. Not even a trace of one. And Fatima's pulse has been edging closer and closer to nothing. The trajectory is undeniable at this point. Boyd has clearly started to feel the weight of it too, and there's a guilt in him that the show is leaning into hard. He was beginning to question whether they actually saved Fatima at all when the voices in Sarah's mind started taunting him with it. And I think those voices knew exactly what they were saying. Because the truth is, what came back from wherever Fatima went might not be fully Fatima anymore. It makes me wonder if the saving itself was the trap, if pulling her back was always part of the plan to plant something inside the town's defenses. I do want to briefly mention the golem storyline here as well, because I share some of the frustration that's been building around it. Fatima spent the better part of the first 7 episodes of this season building that golem, and there was a real emphasis placed on its protective purpose. It felt like it was heading somewhere meaningful, and now it's just sort of sitting in the corner, with Fatima potentially being in the process of turning. The golem feels like it's been sidelined before it ever got to do what it was built to do. I'm still holding out hope that it comes back into play in the finale, but right now it genuinely feels like a thread that's been dropped, and that's disappointing given how much time was invested in it. Now, let's talk about what Sophia revealed about the structure and nature of the town, because this felt like one of the most significant pieces of lore the show has ever dropped, and it reframes a lot of what we've seen across 4 seasons. Sophia told Claraara that the town was built on rituals, and that the way something was done was just as important as the thing itself. Read that again, because it's enormous. The method matters as much as the action. This isn't just atmospheric detail. This is a governing principle that explains the importance of sacrificial elements in the town's history, the power the monsters hold, and why certain things seem to have weight while others don't. Rituals aren't just tradition in Fromville. They are the foundation the whole structure rests on. Pull the wrong stone and you could bring the whole thing down. And that connects directly to why the man in yellow is so rattled by the idea of the bones being dug up and brought to the surface. We saw the lengths he went to in order to use Sophia to sabotage that plan. Claraara was used to damage the ladder that Jade and Tabitha would need to use to climb out of the caves. The intention was to trap them down there, or worse. But here's what I keep coming back to. If the town is built on rituals, and the bones are some kind of ritualistic instrument embedded in the foundation of how the town works, then removing them from the equation could genuinely destabilize everything. Maybe it breaks the immortality of the monsters. Maybe it weakens the hold the town has over the people trapped in it. Jade's instinct that the bones are what the monsters are afraid of is starting to look less like a leap of faith and more like the closest thing to a roadmap this show has ever handed us. Sophia's anger and near panic when she realized that it was only Jade and Tabitha going into the caves to retrieve the bones also tied into this. She was visibly rattled. And that connects to something Tabitha had said earlier about the two of them being different, about there being something specifically meaningful about the way they do things. We've seen across multiple seasons now that Jade and Tabitha appear to be incarnations that keep returning. The talisman with 2 people being honored. The consistent way the show positions them is central to whatever the town's deeper truth is. All of it points in the same direction. If the ritual matters, and if Jade and Tabitha are the right people to carry it out, then maybe them being the ones to retrieve the bones isn't a problem for the plan. Maybe it's exactly what needs to happen. Here's a theory I've been sitting with that I want to share with you. What if the bones don't just weaken the monsters, but actively reverse or undo something that was done ritualistically in the past? If the town was built through ceremony and sacrifice, then there might be a mirror ceremony that undoes it. The bones could be the key component of that counter-ritual. And if Jade and Tabitha are the incarnations who have kept returning specifically to carry this out, then everything across 4 seasons might have been leading to this exact moment in the caves. The town has been delaying this, derailing it, killing them off, resetting the cycle every single time they got close. But this time, they actually got to the bones. They dug them up. All they have to do is get out. Now, let's get to Elgin, because this scene was genuinely chilling and I think it's pointing towards something we need to take very seriously. Elgin found a Polaroid photograph from a different era of the town's history and brought it to Sophia. He told her he thought the person in the photograph looked just like her. He genuinely seemed to think he was sharing something interesting with her, like a fun coincidence. He didn't stop to consider that maybe there was no coincidence at all. Sophia told him plainly that the person in the photograph was her, and she confirmed that she can only take on the form of people who have died. That detail is significant in more ways than one. First, it confirms with near certainty that the man in yellow was responsible for the original Sophia's death. He killed her specifically so that he could wear her face. Second, it strongly suggests that the scene back in episode 2 where the man in yellow appeared to Ethan in the form of Jim was not coincidental either. Jim almost certainly died. The man in yellow killed him so he could pose as Jim and manipulate Ethan into going to the Lake of Tears. And from there, the cascade of terrible events, Roger's death, the dolls coming alive and going on the attack, Donna ending up critically wounded. All of that follows as a direct consequence of that manipulation. It was a deliberate setup, a chain of events engineered by the man in yellow through one act of deception. And then there's what happens to Elgin next. The moment Sophia told him the person in the photo was her, the implication was hanging in the air like a threat. Elgin now knows what Sophia is. He has seen the darkness in her eyes in a way that he cannot explain away. And based on the rules Sophia just laid out, the man in yellow can only take the form of someone who has died within the town, which means Elgin just put a target on himself the moment he asked that question. The most logical move for the man in yellow now is to kill Elgin and use his form to get closer to the group, to insert himself into the operation, to monitor or sabotage things from the inside without anyone suspecting a thing. Elgin being killed feels almost inevitable at this point, and if it happens, it opens up a deeply unsettling new threat in the finale, where someone could be walking around in Elgin's skin and nobody would know. Let's move to Henry, because his storyline is escalating in a way that feels like it's about to break something irreparably. The hallucinations that the man in yellow has been feeding him continued in this episode, with the vision of a doctor figure telling Henry that the only way to sever his connection to the town and free himself was to kill Victor, his own son. The man in yellow is not being subtle here. He's going after the thing Henry wants most, the idea of returning to a normal life, a family, everything that Fromville took from him. And he's attaching the price tag of murdering his child to it. Henry's grip on what's real and what isn't is visibly deteriorating. The carousel horse appearing randomly in Colony House, the visions of Victor's face urging him forward, all of it is designed to erode whatever clarity Henry has left. There's something deeply tragic in the way Henry is written here, because even in the hallucination, even knowing some part of him understands this isn't real, he still struggles, because the image of his son is still his son in some form. And you can see the horror on his face that this is even something he's considering. But Victor is now locked in a prison cell, isolated from anyone who could protect him, with everyone of authority out at the bottle tree. The door is wide open. I think we're heading toward either Henry acting on these hallucinations and going for Victor, or someone walking in on him in that state and intervening. My gut says Kenny might be the one who stumbles on it, and if Henry is far enough gone, Kenny might feel like he has no choice but to stop him by force. Whether that means Henry ends up dead, I think it's possible, even likely. Victor himself recognized the change in his father before he was locked up. He saw it, but I don't think he understood the scale of what he was seeing in time to do anything about it. And that's the tragedy of Victor's position in the story. He always knows just enough to be terrifying and just too little to actually stop what's coming. But here's what I keep thinking. The man in yellow specifically wants Victor dead. That level of targeted effort doesn't get directed at someone unimportant. Victor survived the original massacre all those years ago when everyone else died. He has carried the knowledge of the town longer than anyone else alive. If the man in yellow wants him out of the picture badly enough to run this elaborate psychological operation on Henry, then Victor is probably more dangerous to the town than even he realizes. Here's another theory I want to throw out there. What if Victor's long memory is actually the key to completing whatever ritual Jade and Tabitha are attempting? What if the reason the man in yellow is trying so hard to get him killed isn't just to remove an obstacle, but to prevent Victor from being able to provide the missing piece of knowledge that ties it all together? The show has been seeding Victor's importance since the very beginning. His survival, his memory, his drawings, none of that feels accidental. And the timing of the man in yellow's push to eliminate him, right as Jade and Tabitha are this close to getting the bones out, feels very deliberate. Now let's talk about the bottle tree, because this element of the episode carried a lot of weight. After Tabitha told Boyd what she witnessed near the RV, and after Father Cattry offered his perspective that some lives may need to be sacrificed in service of others, Boyd made the decision to move forward with the plan. Part of that plan involves physically removing the bottle tree from the ground. Jade's belief is that the bottle tree sits above what could be an alternative exit point from the caves, a way out that bypasses whatever traps Sophia may have set with the damaged ladder. So tearing out the bottle tree isn't just symbolic. It could be the literal lifeline for Jade and Tabitha if they get trapped below. But the boy in white appeared to Victor and told him not to let the bottle tree be destroyed. He was insistent, and Victor broke down at the thought of it being torn up. There is a history with this tree. The boy in white previously told Victor to leave it alone back in Season 3 when Victor was considering chopping it down himself. And it was connected in some way to Christopher, though the show has never fully laid out the nature of that connection. We know the tree held the key to Jade and Tabitha's recovered memories in Season 3. It clearly has some kind of function within the mechanics of the town. But here is where this episode pushed me to consider something I haven't fully entertained before. This episode leaned very heavily into the theme of the town deceiving people in order to cause harm. Lie after lie after lie, woven together so tightly that the truth is almost impossible to see. And if that's the overarching message of the episode, then I have to ask the question, is the boy in white actually on the side of the people trapped in the town? Or is he working with the man in yellow? Because what if the bottle tree being destroyed is actually good for the residents? What if removing it breaks something the man in yellow needs in place? The boy in white has always been cryptic. He never gives a full explanation. He never tells you everything. And in an episode so heavily themed around deception, his insistence that the tree must not be touched suddenly feels a lot more suspicious than it used to. I think the finale might force us to reckon with the possibility that Victor's most trusted guide has not been guiding him toward freedom at all. By the time we reach the end of the episode, everything is moving at once. Jade and Tabitha have the bones. They dug them up. They have what they came for. But Sophia already cut the rope on the ladder. Getting out is now a completely different problem. The monsters heard the sound of digging and they stirred awake, those unsettling smiles spreading across their faces. That image alone was one of the most genuinely haunting moments in the entire season. The sound of digging like a dinner bell. The town's creatures recognizing that something is happening and being pleased about it, not frightened. As if they know something we don't about what's about to come next. And the talisman, the one that's been their protection above ground, we don't know if it will hold in the caves. The show has established that how things are done in this town matters. The talisman was presumably set up in a specific way for a specific context. Whether it carries the same power underground, in the bone's own territory, so to speak, is genuinely unclear. But what I keep coming back to is the possibility that Jade and Tabitha, being the incarnations who have returned time and time again, might actually be what protects them when nothing else can. If they are the specific people this ritual requires, then maybe the bones themselves won't allow harm to come to them. Or maybe that's wishful thinking. What I do believe is that the finale is going to force at least one major casualty. And if I had to name the person I think is in the most danger, it's Jade. There's something almost poetic about the idea of him dying down in those caves, not at the hands of the townspeople or the monsters in the conventional sense, but dying while actively trying to protect the town and break the cycle. All his previous incarnations were killed by circumstances or by the town's cruelty. If this version of Jade goes out fighting for something, that would be a genuinely powerful end for him. It would mean something his past selves never got to mean, and it would land differently than any death this show has delivered before. Looking at the episode as a complete piece of television, this was genuinely strong. From the moment it opened, there was a pressure underneath every scene that never let up. The man in yellow's fear was palpable, and Sophia absolutely sold it. She was operating in two registers simultaneously. Menacing and manipulative with Claraara, perfectly constructed and false with everyone else like Boyd. Watching her sit calmly next to the monsters in the diner while everyone else at the table looked deeply uncomfortable was a brilliant piece of character work. And her anger when she realized it was only Jade and Tabitha going into the caves, that flash of genuine fear, it told us more about the stakes than any piece of dialogue could. The score during the sequence where the group headed into the forest to deal with the bottle tree deserves a mention too. It had this layered quality to it, ominous and weighty, but with something almost hopeful threaded through it, like the music was carrying two truths at once, that this was dangerous and that this might actually be the thing that saves them. Victor's breakdown near the bottle tree was one of the most emotionally loaded moments of the episode, and the actor delivered it completely. The golem's absence from the latter part of the episode still bugs me. Julie's revelation that she saw the man in yellow was handled too casually for something that should have been a significant beat. Her storyline this season has felt underutilized, and that continues to be a genuine disappointment. When I put this season next to Season 3, I do think Season 3 had a slightly heavier emotional texture to it. This season has moved somewhat slowly in places, with the Bones storyline in particular feeling like it occasionally struggled to earn the weight it was asking for. Jade's confidence in knowing what the bones mean and what to do with them has at times felt a little underexplained. I like the destination. I'm not entirely sold on how the road got us there, but Episode 9 managed to take all of that buildup and compress it into something that felt genuinely tense and consequential. And the finale, which marks the end of the penultimate season, with Season 5 confirmed as the final chapter of From, now has everything in place for something extraordinary to happen. Jade and Tabitha are underground with the bones and a broken ladder. Henry is unraveling and his son is locked in a cell with no one watching. Fatima is transforming into something the town has claimed. Elgin probably has hours left to live. The bottle tree either is or isn't about to be destroyed. The boy in white may not be who we think he is. and the monsters are awake and smiling because they heard the sound of digging. Whatever the finale delivers, the pieces are all on the board, and I, for one, cannot wait to see which ones get knocked off the table. That's from Season 4, Episode 9, Broken Down. I'll see you in the finale.